Welcome back to Big Red Rant. It's been a little over 2 months since the number one prospect, Dylan Raiola, decommitted from Ohio State and reopened his recruitment. While a lot of Husker fans hoped, and some assumed, that meant he was quickly going to be committing to Nebraska, that has not been the case, as it seems the Huskers will have to wait it out and earn his commitment. Unfortunately, their opponent is not just any other team. Nebraska is fighting the reigning champion Georgia Bulldogs for Raiola's services. Gary, what's changed in the recruitment process of Raiola, if anything? And with him going to Georgia first for a visit, is he actually going to make it to Lincoln?
I think he will, man. I think he'll make another round of visits from what it sounds like. People who are following it and talking to his dad and everything. As far as what's changed, kind of what we talked last time, I felt like a lot of people thought it was a foregone conclusion that on the heels of Donovan being renamed offensive line coach and Rule being freshly hired, that, okay, those things happen. He decommitted. It's because he's coming to Nebraska. And it's turned out it really was him reopening his recruitment. You know, there's been a lot of schools that have gone down to Arizona and visited him. A lot of schools they've gone to. I think they're still supposed to visit with Oregon and maybe TCU or another school. But it sounds like USC and Georgia are the front runners along with Nebraska, and no one talked about those schools early on. You know, it was just, oh, it's Nebraska. You know, all the prediction things pointed to Nebraska and things like that. I think the schools that have shown interest and the schools that they've shown interest in along the way are the main things that have changed, to where I'm sure a lot of people, everybody's hopeful, right, that he's coming. But I think a lot of people who thought it was a foregone conclusion are probably like, damn it, I hope one of these other big name schools, big name coaches don't swoop in and get him from us. But, you know, to answer your question, yeah, I think he already met with USC the end of last month. He's got Georgia in about a month and then us after that. And I wouldn't be surprised if he makes another round of visits. You know, he announced last year on his birthday in May, and that's kind of the timetable people are talking about, is, you know, into summer before he announces this year. So I think they're doing their thing and really checking stuff out, and, you know, just gonna have to be patient and see what happens.
Did you get a chance to watch Dominic Raiola's interview, his father, former Husker great, on Husker Online on YouTube? It came off to me like he was doing them a favor, and because it was his hometown, he was willing to take the call. But I gotta be honest, I'm sorry, but we're no longer hiring for the position vibes. Did you as well?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I already, if you remember the last video we did about it, I kind of got ripped over me saying what's changed and things like that, and not being all in that he was 100% signing. I always felt like they really were going to look at things, other options, and I feel like that's still kind of where it's at. I think it's pretty obvious if it weren't for his dad, Nebraska wouldn't even be in the running, if you look at the schools that he's looking at. And I think he probably really wants him to come here because of that. I mean, he helped recruit Ben Scott to here. His brother's here. He's always been, you know, supportive of the program, obviously. But I don't think that they would be giving Nebraska another meeting, you know, or another visit if it was they're done, they're out of the running, because you're not hearing about them visiting too many other schools compared to what they were originally doing. But it did feel like a lot of, I don't know how to word it, like maybe the parents, the parental version of coach speak, you know, kind of trying to give the right answers. And I felt there was a lot of kind of calculated answers, making sure he wasn't giving a lot away. And maybe they don't know, maybe they do know, and they're not going to say anything. But I also feel that if they did know for sure where he's going, I don't know that you would really drag it out into the summer, you know, with more visits and things like that, because quarterbacks, they usually take one. You know, schools will usually take one quarterback per class. Sometimes they'll take two. And Georgia has said they plan on taking two. They've already signed a 4-star. And you never know with USC. You know, Lincoln Riley could pull a quarterback, it seems like, from anywhere and win a Heisman with them and compete for a title. So it's just, I think it comes down to the schools that are left. It's not going to be a rush for them because they're going to be okay quarterback-wise. Nebraska has what they have. If Raiola isn't a legacy of a Husker, he's not in the running for Nebraska, I don't think. Obviously, I think everybody thinks that. But it's not like Nebraska needs to know yes or no if he's coming so they can go to the next 4 or 5-star quarterback. Like, it's him or it's back to what we've been getting, trying to get a guy out of a portal. We're hoping that, a kid close to home can develop into, the next star focal point of the offense. So Nebraska's in a nothing to lose situation. The other two schools are in a, we either get him and we're great, or we don't get him and, we plug somebody else in, because every other position on the team is stacked. So I don't know that them playing off and acting like, oh, you still got a chance, Nebraska, really benefits anybody, if he knows where he's going. But I know you said you got those vibes. You think they go through all that and do the visits and everything? I mean, obviously they're in Nebraska a lot. Dominic even alluded to that he's here a lot and things like that because he has family here. But I mean, what's your thoughts with that? Like, go a little deeper into why you think that it's kind of a sorry, but we're moving on type of thing, but yet they're still going through the motions, but not so much with other schools.
I don't have a lot of skills, Gary, but one of mine that I'm confident in is my ability to read body language. And it was a FaceTime call, and I could see him, and he looked like he was hiding something. I don't know. I got vibes that he's not as interested in Nebraska as Nebraska is as interested in him.
For sure. That's 100% going to be the case. I mean, you look at the programs, compare the programs. I mean, Nebraska is the longest running Power 5 school to not make a bowl game. The offensive line still in shambles. The only thing anybody's going off of is the same thing we go off of after every new coach gets hired. And it's optimism and hope that things are going to turn and get better. And I hope so, but I'm not banking on it. I don't see why a 4 or 5-star athlete, let alone the number 1 overall recruit, would have all the confidence in the world that things aren't what they've been for the last however many years. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no comparison really in which place is going to provide better opportunities immediately between us, USC, and Georgia. You know what I mean? One's back-to-back champions. One just turned a huge corner with, like we said, a coach that has won how many Heisman trophies for quarterbacks in the last however many years and is always, a top 5, top 10 team. So I don't think that's a question that Nebraska is beyond desperate to get him.
The one way I feel like I could see it happening is if Raiola is swept up in the excitement of Nebraska being worshipped like a god. We're the only team that truly is desperate for him, playing for his uncle, playing where his dad played, all that jazz. He decides, I'll give him a year. The portal is as friendly as it has ever been. I'll give him a year. I might give him 2 years. If they don't get it figured out with Matt Rule in the first couple of years, I'm out of Dodge.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. I hadn't really thought of that aspect of it. That is a good point if he wants to give that a go. You and I talked before, and to me, he's going to go to Georgia or USC and have every opportunity to win Heisman's, compete for national championships, leave a year, whatever, early, and go to the NFL and be, a high-end pick. If he comes to Nebraska, there's a ton of ifs. To me, it's more, I want to go follow my dad's footsteps. I want to be, the keystone of the resurgence of what used to be a powerhouse, getting him back to there. And then there's a lot more risk on that side of things. I think he's born and raised in Texas, right? Then they moved to Arizona. He's been down there. So I don't know if, he was committed to Ohio State. So I don't know that weather and styles matter as much to him as some people might think. Or, everybody wants to go to a Southern school that's warmer and things like that. Like I said, he was committed to Ohio State. So obviously that's not a huge factor, but it's just, again, like the last video, I go back to, if that's my kid even, and this is my alma mater, I'm thinking, what's best for my kid? Coming off of, what's the last quarterback we had that got through a whole season without injury? The point where they're having surgeries where they're going to be late coming into next season. Yeah, everybody's going to assume that things are going to get better. We assume that under Frost. Some people assume that under Riley. I wasn't a fan, but that's neither here nor there. It's just, I don't know, man. It just seems like when you're coming into college that highly sought after, to take a risk on a program that's in rebuild as opposed to going to a team that's coming off of back-to-back championships, or going to a team that they're also kind of in a rebuild, but they're not as far behind, and the talent's more abundant there. The coach is more than proven, especially with that position. I still don't think we get him. I would love to. I hope we do. It would be huge. But I mean, that's just where I'm at, man. I just don't see it happening when everything's said and done.
Dylan, on the off chance that you see this video, Gary's not trying to talk you out of coming to Nebraska. He's just like this, okay? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Until next time, go Big Red.